Have you figured out all these teams in college football? Have you figured out most of them? I think I have a read on a lot of them, but there are some teams that, to be honest with you, I'm still way out on. Like, I still got to see more from. Missouri is one of those teams. I got like 5 of them here that are mystery teams to me. So, wow, did you see that? The armrest almost went out. So the Missouri Tigers right now, I started them at number 15 in the JP poll. They've climbed up to 11. We've added 4 points of value. So here's a good way to go through this. So Colin is showing you the JP poll right now. I've got Missouri at 11 this week. They were 15th to start the season. We've added about 4 points of value. They beat Murray State. They beat Buffalo. They shut both of those teams out. They've looked really good. They get Boston College this weekend. So the JP poll's sitting at 11, and all that's meant to do is show you what the model thinks about Missouri versus other teams if they played on a neutral field today. So I put that out, and sure enough, we had someone reply. His name is Patrick. And Patrick said, there's no way you're choosing Oregon, USC, Miami, nor Penn State to beat Missouri if you use the eye test. Well, Patrick, I don't use the eye test. If I did that, I'd just be voting in the AP poll, and it would be called a ranking. But we do power ratings, and therefore I really don't care about my gut or my eyes so much. I just care about who would be favored on a neutral field, and I've got great news for us and bad news for you, Patrick. You don't have to take my word for it. Because as you know, we've partnered with FanDuel Sportsbook, and they're just one call away. I hit David up. I said, David, have the traders run me these 4 games. Tell me Missouri versus Oregon, USC, Miami, Penn State. Neutral field today, what are the numbers? Missouri is a 7.5-point dog if they play neutral field today against Oregon. They are a 1.5-point dog against USC if they play neutral field today. They are a field goal underdog against Miami, neutral field, if they play today. And according to FanDuel Sportsbook, Missouri is a 3.5-point underdog against Penn State if they play neutral field today. Patrick, you would be free to bet money line and take those points any which way you want. But if you think it's a crazy concept that Missouri may be a short underdog versus those teams, don't just yell at me. Yell at the folks who actually hang the numbers for a living and built those beautiful buildings out in Las Vegas, because they happen to share my opinion on that. Was that too forceful? I don't think it was too forceful. I just am so glad that we have FanDuel at our back now, because it used to just be I had to defend myself on an island here, and now we got the biggest sports book in the world that can say, yep, no, he's right. He's right. It's not a guarantee they'd lose the games. It's just a guarantee they wouldn't be favored, and that's all we care about in the JP poll. Now, Missouri's got Boston College this week. Here's the good news, Patrick. I think you will win and cover against Boston College. It's one of our best bets. We put it on the Ramen Noodle Express, powered by FanDuel, as it turns out. So, look at that schedule. Oh, it gets so tasty. They've got Vandy after Boston College. Then they go to A&M and UMass. Yes, that's a real thing. Missouri's playing a real game at UMass. Auburn, I mean, they got at Bama. That's the first one I know that really catches your eye, and it's not till the week of Halloween. So, I'm saying Missouri is a mystery team, not because I think they're bad. It's because there has been no opponent so far that would adequately test them where we really get to learn about them. LSU faced USC in week 1, so we learned about LSU. We haven't learned much about Missouri. Next up, a team that's been taken to the wire a couple of times. Oregon struggled against the entire state of Idaho. They got by Idaho 24-14. They got by Boise 37-34. The offensive line's not settled here, which is the crux of why they're still a mystery team to me. 2.96 yards per carry for Oregon this season so far. That's 113th in the country. They were 3rd in the country in that same stat category last year. So that's a drastic change. Oregon cannot be a full version of themselves if they can't run the ball effectively. Very few teams can, by the way. So I'm not giving up on Oregon. We've bumped them a little bit in the JP poll, but I have not given up on them. I just think some teams need a longer runway. When you don't have a preseason, and we don't, I'm not advocating for us to have one, by the way, but when you don't have a preseason, sometimes the stuff that needs to get figured out or ironed out takes a few weeks into the season. And if you've got a front-loaded schedule like Clemson did last year, you may be screwed. If you've got a back-loaded schedule like Oregon, you have some time to figure things out, but it doesn't mean you want to mess around. You don't want to play with your food, as they say. You want to eat. And so they've still got some time here. It's a tricky spot this weekend at Oregon State, and then they got the bye week. But I haven't sold on them. I just think they're a mystery in that I'm wondering, can they become the version of Oregon I thought they'd be? They're still the fourth best odds to win the title right now at FanDuel. So their odds haven't plummeted. I think those guys are seeing the same thing I am, and that is this is a team that, it's kind of like if you have the pop tab on a Coke. If you have no fingernails like me, like what that thing's going to be when it opens, but you're having problems. Mom, can you open this Coke for me? That would be pop to those of you not where I'm from. Ole Miss is a mystery team. Ole Miss is a mystery team, but they were always going to be that this time of year. I mean, they beat Furman 76-0 in week 1. They disposed of, who'd they play last week? 52-3. Middle Tennessee. Oh, man, rest in peace, Blue Raiders. And what are we doing? We're betting MTSU this week. So they've won. They've given up a total of 3 points, and they've already scored into the hundreds. They were never going to prove anything about themselves the first 2 weeks. They go to Wake this week. The model loves Wake Forest. Producer Jesse and I both agree Ole Miss probably covers again this week. So the model's probably just wrong on Ole Miss. And then they play Georgia Southern. And is it a little bit of an inexplicable schedule? Yes. Does it matter? No. Because they end up playing at LSU. They play Oklahoma. They've got Georgia. You got the Egg Bowl at the end of the year. So we'll end up learning about them. It just takes a little while. I have nothing bad to say. I would love to see their new defensive transfer portal pieces get tested, but you ain't getting tested against a guy named Furman, and so it's going to take a little while. That's not a bad thing. I'd love to have that schedule at Pate State. I'd love to have that kind of schedule. So it's not a bad thing. It's just a wait-and-see mode for Ole Miss, or for me on Ole Miss. Louisville is a team that I think is one of the most underrated in the country right now. However, they still qualify as a mystery team. Because I think they are a really, really sneaky contender to make the playoff, to compete in the ACC. But they've played Austin Peay and Jacksonville State. So I can think that all I want to, just like I think Ole Miss is really good. I can think that. It technically hasn't been proven to me, and it couldn't be yet. Tyler Shuck, so far so good. So that's the quarterback there. And he's never had a season where he started more than 7 games. In the games he starts, he's really good, no matter where he is. So far, so good. They are playing Georgia Tech. That's next week. So they're off this week, Jesse? I think they're off this week. So they got a little while. I went and watched the Jacksonville State game in totality because that's just how I live this time of year. I think their offensive line looks good. I think they got good weapons. I think they can run the ball. It is a portal-laden team. And in this sort of feast or famine mode we're in with the portal right now, you're going to have some teams that kill it, like Florida State did last year. You're going to have some teams that strike out, like Florida State this year. Louisville may be sort of a last-year FSU team. They got the third best odds to win the ACC right now. So keep an eye on them. And I'd throw Penn State in here too. I think Penn State's a little bit of a mystery team. They beat West Virginia in week 1, which was great. And Drew Aller had a really good passing day, and that was great. Pay attention to what happened the next week. So Penn State has Bowling Green throw it on them a little bit. Meanwhile, West Virginia gave up over 300 passing to Albany. So you just start to ask questions that are fair, and that is, was Penn State throwing the ball like that on West Virginia as impressive as it seemed like it was now that we've got another week's evidence in our lap? Penn State got held close against Bowling Green last week. What's crazy is their wide receivers there are only 3 wide receivers on this team with a reception. And Fleming's one of them, and he's got 1 reception. So they've got to spread the ball out more. It turns out that the offense hasn't totally arrived yet. And so they have got a workable schedule as well. You're not hearing a lot about Penn State right now because they don't play marquee games early. They played the West Virginia game, which was the big noon kickoff. So I guess that is kind of a marquee game. But now they faded for just a second. But they play at USC on that big Saturday, October 12th. And not that they don't have some losable games before then. Like Illinois, we know what happens, what can happen when they come up there. But that game at USC could end up being the game of that Saturday. Everyone's going to be focused on Ole Miss LSU and OU Texas, and that's Ohio State Oregon Day, but that's also Penn State USC Day. So let's keep an eye on it.